We already knew it was gonna come to this, but she already broke down everything, and everybody already know how Yo Gotti get down. Yo Gotti is from Memphis. Yo Gotti, he feel that Gucci Man came over there and started trying to take all the artists. At the end of the day, they've been into it since the beginning. Gucci Man, he's told on Pooh Shiesty and everybody else. Pooh Shiesty, he not wrong for what he did, and Gucci Man ain't wrong. Regardless of how they look at it, if you're a fan of Gucci Man, hit the like button. If you're a fan of Pooh Shiesty, let me know how you feel down in the comment section because the indictment came out. Now keep in mind, they processed this real quick. Pooh Shiesty, he was on house arrest when he did all this. Like the home monitor thing, he was on home monitor the whole time, man. I want everybody to, hey, hit the like button if you're a fan of Pooh Shiesty.
But if I was, I feel like the number one rule would be don't commit crimes while wearing an ankle monitor. So, anyway, I just got my hands on the 32-page federal criminal complaint for Pooh Shiesty, his daddy, Big 30, and 6 others. So, let me walk you through what the feds are alleging happened in this complaint. So, let's start off with the defendants. There's Lontrell Williams Jr., aka Pooh Shiesty, Lontrell Williams Sr., his daddy, Rodney White Jr., aka Big 30, Demarcus Glover, Darian McDaniel, Terrence Rogers, Corday Johnson, Kadarius Waters, and Demarion Gibson. And they're all charged with kidnapping, conspiracy to commit kidnapping, and robbery stemming from an incident that happened on January 10th, 2026 in Dallas, Texas. So, according to the complaint, on January 10th, 2026, 3 victims who are referred to by their initials in the complaint, and the first victim has the initials RD, as in Raydrick Davis. I'm Raydrick Davis, but the ladies call me Gucci's baby. MM and BP. It says they all flew into Dallas for what they thought was a business meeting. Lontrell Williams Jr., Pooh Shiesty, was signed to RD's label 1017 since around Gucci Mane. I'm not a criminal, but if I was, I feel like the number one rule would be don't commit crimes while wearing an ankle monitor. So, anyway, I just got my hands on the 32-page federal criminal complaint for Pooh Shiesty, his daddy, Big 30, and 6 others. So, let me walk you through what the feds are alleging happened in this complaint. So, let's start off with the defendants. There's Lontrell Williams Jr., aka Pooh Shiesty, Lontrell Williams Sr., his daddy, Rodney White Jr., aka Big 30, Demarcus Glover, Darian McDaniel, Terrence Rogers, Corday Johnson, Kadarius Waters, and Demarion Gibson. And they're all charged with kidnapping, conspiracy to commit kidnapping, and robbery stemming from an incident that happened on January 10th, 2026 in Dallas, Texas. So, according to the complaint, on January 10th, 2026, 3 victims who are referred to by their initials in the complaint, and the first victim has the initials RD, as in Raydrick Davis. I'm Raydrick Davis, but the ladies call me Gucci's baby. Pooh Shiesty kicked it off. Sign my contract release now. 3 months. Pooh Shiesty. I'm not a criminal, but if I was, I feel like the number one rule would be Pooh Shiesty kicked it off. I'm not a criminal, but if I was, I feel like the Gucci man. I'm not a criminal, but if I Gucci man. I'm not a criminal, but if I was, I feel like the number one rule would be don't commit crimes while wearing an ankle monitor. So, anyway, I just got my hands on the 32-page federal criminal complaint for Pooh Shiesty, his daddy, Big 30, and 6 others. So, let me walk you through what the feds are alleging happened in this complaint. So, let's start off with the defendants. There's Lontrell Williams Jr., aka Pooh Shiesty, Lontrell Williams Sr., his daddy, Rodney White Jr., aka Big 30, Demarcus Glover, Darian McDaniel, Terrence Rogers, Corday Johnson, Kadarius Waters, and Demarion Gibson. And they're all charged with kidnapping, conspiracy to commit kidnapping, and robbery stemming from an incident that happened on January 10th, 2026 in Dallas, Texas. So, according to the complaint, on January 10th, 2026, 3 victims who are referred to by their initials in the complaint, and the first victim has the initials RD, as in Raydrick Davis. I'm Raydrick Davis, but the ladies call me Gucci's baby. MM and BP. It says they all flew into Dallas for what they thought was a business meeting. Lontrell Williams Jr., Pooh Shiesty, was signed to RD's label 1017 since around 2021. Okay, so it's clear RD is Gucci Mane. So I'm just gonna say Gucci. Okay. And the point of this meeting was because Pooh Shiesty was upset with the terms of his contract and he wanted to be released from his contract. So Pooh asked Gucci to come to Dallas so they could meet about, quote, business. Gucci, his head of security, another security officer, and the other two victims pull up to the studio around 1:45 for this meeting, but it was closed. Around 3:15, Pooh Shiesty's dad, William Sr., gets the owner of the studio to open it up for them. William Sr. is seen on video surveillance at 3:28 standing outside of the building on his phone. According to the complaint, at 3:43, so about 15 minutes later, Pooh Shiesty, his dad, Big 30, and the other 6 defendants enter the studio where Gucci and his team had already been waiting. Now, apparently, at this point, Pooh Shiesty, who has an ankle monitor, gets a call from his probation or his parole officer because he's not at home. Pooh tells the officer that his caseworker gave him permission to be out for, quote, rec time, but the officer tells Pooh that's not the case. He doesn't have rec time and he needs to return home immediately. The complaint says that Gucci and his team overhear this phone call, so Gucci tells Pooh that they can reschedule their meeting, but Pooh says he wants to talk to Gucci privately. So the two of them go into a separate recording room, and according to the complaint, Pooh brings out a contract termination or contract release document and tells Gucci to sign it. Gucci says he doesn't want to sign the document, and so the complaint says the two of them begin arguing. Pooh then tells Rodney White Jr., who again is Big 30, to get his bag, and when Big 30 returns with the bag, Pooh allegedly pulls out a black AK-style pistol, points it at Gucci, and then demands he signs the contract release. Gucci then signs, and while he's doing that, William Sr. and Big 30 guard the door of the recording room so that Gucci can't leave. According to the document, after Gucci signs the document, Pooh allegedly takes Gucci's wedding ring, his watch, earrings, and his cash from him. Gucci apparently forgot to date his signature, and so after reviewing the document, Pooh gives him the document back so he can add the date, and then they're all good. Now, when they are exiting that recording room, the other defendants who were still in the main studio area pulled out their weapons and allegedly demanded the other victims to give them their stuff. The document says victim PB was pushed onto a couch in the control room while an individual named as CMO Damn Fool searched his pockets and stole his wallet. BP's 1017 chain and a necklace were also stolen from him by someone he knew as Glizzy 375. The document says BP was also able to identify someone he knew as Baby Slime 375 and another individual he knew as KD. Now, during this incident, the complaint alleges that MM, the other victim, was choked from behind to the point of nearly losing consciousness, resulting in him having scratches on his neck and wrist. MM's Rolex watch, a Louis Vuitton bag containing multiple other high-dollar watches, his Apple AirPod headphones, and his wallet were all stolen from him, but he happened to have an Apple AirTag located in the Louis Vuitton bag, and so he provided that to law enforcement, which were able to track the last known location. And then, according to the complaint, Pooh Shiesty pointed the barrel of the firearm to the back of BP's head and orders him and Gucci to leave the studio. According to law enforcement, video surveillance shows the defendants leaving the building at approximately 4:58 p.m. So that's the outline of what the feds say happened at the studio. So now let's get into some of the evidence law enforcement says they have to show that these defendants committed this crime. And it starts with some surveillance videos recovered from another building in the area. That video shows a white Buick Enclave, a black Dodge Charger Hellcat, and a black Dodge Ram, all pulling off shortly after the incident. And according to police records, Rodney Wright Jr.'s father owns a 2020 Dodge Charger Hellcat bearing a Tennessee license plate. And the Buick that was with the cars was actually a rental car. And after getting a subpoena for records from Hertz, law enforcement learns that Lontrell Williams Sr. rented the car on December 29, 2025 with a return date of January 11, 2026, the day after this incident. Next up, the document goes into Pooh Shiesty's ankle monitor. The document notes that Pooh Shiesty had just been put on house arrest on October 31, 2025 for a firearms charge. And a part of his conditions for this house arrest was that he would not possess any deadly weapon or knowingly be in the company of a person possessing the same. It also notes that he was required to wear an electronic monitoring device, and that same monitoring device confirmed that he was at or near the location of this incident around the time of this incident. Next up, the document talks about a trip Lontrell Williams Sr. took to Staples around 1:15 on the day of the incident. Now remember, Gucci and his team didn't get inside the studio until around 3:15, and according to this complaint, at approximately 1:50 p.m., Williams Sr. was seen on video entering a Staples. His rented Buick Enclave can be seen on surveillance video parking near the front of the store. And then when Williams comes into the store, he goes directly to the copy printer machine. And so investigators are alleging that due to the timing of this Staples trip, they believe Williams Sr. was there to print off the contractual release that he later presented to Gucci at the studio. All right. Next up are cell phone records. And according to investigators, they say that these records show some of the defendants driving from Memphis on January 8th and arriving in Dallas in the early morning hours of January 9th. And if one person having an ankle monitor wasn't enough, defendant Glover apparently also had an ankle monitor on, and his monitor also aligns with what all the other evidence is showing. Investigators also received records from Greyhound, which apparently showed defendants Glover, Rogers, Gibson, and McDaniel traveling from Dallas, Texas, back to Memphis, Tennessee after the alleged incident. 3 of the other defendants who didn't take the Greyhound drove back to Memphis in the Hellcat. And when they got to Memphis, they stayed at a Comfort Inn. And while they were there, the Hellcat was apparently reported stolen. I'm assuming that's on purpose, but there's a lot going on. But after learning about the defendants being at the Comfort Inn, investigators were able to get surveillance video from that hotel. And they see that at some point, almost all of the defendants had been at the Comfort Inn, and they're all wearing some of the same clothing that was seen on video at the studio. And then investigators were able to lift some fingerprints off of cups that were left in the studio, and they matched those to defendant Gibson and defendant Rogers. Now, after all of that corroborating evidence, law enforcement says they then used Instagram to help identify some of these defendants. First up was Pooh Shiesty, who was easily identifiable because all of the victims knew his real name and his stage name. And then when it comes to Luntrell Williams Sr., they all knew that he was Pooh Shiesty's dad. The document says all 3 victims were able to identify Rodney White as Big 30. And because some of these defendants made posts on Instagram shortly after the incident, that also helped law enforcement. For example, victim BP knew Rogers as his Instagram page, Damnfool375, and after law enforcement was able to match his pictures to his state ID, they figured out his name. But in addition to that, Rogers was also seen on Instagram wearing a Rolex that appeared to be similar to the one stolen from MM. And then there's defendant Glover, whose Instagram name is Twin CMO, and his Instagram account later posted stories of him having a Rolex, a large amount of cash, and tagged Dallas, Texas as his location. Now, is the point to get away with the crime or not? There was also a post of him wearing a 1017 chain that was similar to the one that was stolen from BP at the studio. All right, you get the point. And so, in conclusion, law enforcement says there is probable cause to believe that on January 10, 2026, in Dallas, Texas, DeMarcus Glover, Demarion Gibson, Corday Johnson, Darian McDaniel, Terrence Rogers, Kadarius Waters, Lontrell Williams Jr., Lontrell Williams Sr., and Rodney White Jr. all conspired and committed these crimes. And so they've been arrested. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but even if your point was to get out of the contract, forcing someone to do it under duress would still invalidate the contract release, right? Like you can't force someone to sign a document. That defeats the point. But I'm not a lawyer or a criminal, so what do I know? And this is all alleged. So we'll see what happens.
I want everybody to know, hey man, hey, run this video up, man. Hey, they just broke it down clearly. No cap. I want y'all to know. I just wanted to bring this information to y'all attention for everybody who are a fan of the channel. I want y'all to tap in, man. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, support the channel at Street Blogs for L Cash App.